Hello there, my name is Stephen Smith and I'm the lead minister of the Oxford Elam Church, and I want to welcome you to our Easter special, our Good Friday special of Stories with Stephen. This show is an incredible opportunity to hear real stories from real people about real events in their lives that led to true and lasting transformation. We have many exciting guests lined up for you over the next few months, but today we have Pete Berry joining us live on the show.
Hello.
Hiya, Pete. Pete is a husband and a father to two incredible teenagers. He's a qualified electrician whilst heading up the evangelism team and the food bank at Cheltenham Elam Church. So he's a very, very busy guy. I'm really excited personally to have Pete joining us on the show today to share his story. And I want to say to you today, if you have any questions during the course of the show, please drop them in the chat and we'll try to answer as many of them as we possibly can. If you're tuning in tonight, maybe you could do us a favour and start a watch party. This will help us get Pete's story out there and, more importantly, get the message of the gospel out on this glorious Good Friday. Pete, it's an incredible privilege to have you on the show. Thanks so much for agreeing to do this. Would you please share your wonderful story of transformation with us, please?
Absolutely, be my pleasure. So my kind of story probably started back in the mid-70s. I was born early 70s. You wouldn't believe it. I know, look a bit older than what I am. So I was brought up in the 70s. So the kind of space race was taking off. It was big into Star Wars, and Star Trek was a big thing as well. So the science fiction kind of side of thing, and the science, the questions of, what's out there, why are we here, all those kind of things I kind of grew up with. And it kind of led me through my teenage years to start looking into science, into physics and stuff like that. Was one of my favorite subjects. And right the way up into my kind of teenage years, I started reading Stephen Hawking's Universe in a Nutshell, Jim Al-Khalili, Quantum Mechanics, Hawking's obviously, Steve Jones, Language of the Genes, all these kind of science things to try and explain why I was here and what I was, what's it all about. I had no interest at all in any faith, in any kind of faith at all. It was just, to me, it was rubbish. It was just a blind, stupid bunch of nonsense. I was an atheist, but I wasn't just an atheist that was happy to be an atheist and leave everyone else to follow their own thing. So I can just give you some kind of an idea. I was a kind of ex-rugby player. Used to get drunk and fight a bit. Well, back in my days, and was a bit of a rogue. And I can remember being at a New Year's Eve party one evening, and I found out one of the ladies there was a Christian. So that was it. I was off drinking hand over to her, and I kind of just started battering her with questions all night, and to the point where she started crying. That's what kind of a person I was. And I went home with a skipping my step, thought, job done. I've sorted her out. Anyway, fast forward. So again, the only time I ever went to church was weddings, funerals, that type of thing. I had no biblical knowledge at all, wasn't interested in the slightest little bit. So what happened then? We kind of sold our house. I'm originally from a place called the Forest of Dean, which is a small town just on the border of Wales and England. And we managed to sell our house again, which, again, the story with that, we bought a house which was right in the corner plot of where a business was, and they wanted to sell the business to sell it for housing. So we had the corner plot with the right of way, right the way through the whole place. So if a lot of people say coincidences. I don't now, looking back, believe in coincidences. That was a set up point because it allowed us to move to Cheltenham because we made a killing on our house. So then we moved to Cheltenham. Now this is 16 and a bit years ago now. Wow. We moved to Cheltenham, and we moved to an area where there was a very good school, because we just had a son then. He was 3 months old, and so we moved to the area, tried to get him into the school, as you would imagine. You go through all the process of applying, and we didn't get in. I was like, oh. Ironically, and now I will say that the school was a COV school as well, which at the time I didn't even twig. I just knew it was a good school, so I probably wouldn't have sent him there. But as it happened, we didn't go. So both my wife and I had fairly well-paid jobs, so we panicked and put him into a private school in Cheltenham. So he's in a private school, got into there, met a chap who I got on really, really well with. He was an ex-paratrooper, real strong, fit guy. We started doing kind of like triathlons and stuff like that together. You wouldn't believe it looking at me now. I know, leave me alone. And so yeah, well, I got to know this guy, and then I found out he was a Christian. So I'm like, right, lamb to the slaughter, here I come. So over the space of the kind of next 2 years of being there with him, I just completely, every time I saw him, I had a new question. Every time I saw him, I had a new dig at the Bible, why he believed what he believed. And do you know what? I was absolutely blown away by the way he dealt with it. He was so gracious for a man that, you know, has gone through all the training. He's a he's a hard guy, a fit guy, you know, and he had such a heart to share with me. He didn't know all the answers all the times, but what he did say, I'll come back to you next week when I see you with an answer to the question. And over the space of 2 years, my kind of questions, I saw how he was talking to me and how he respected me, even though I kind of really didn't respect him. And my questions started to get a little bit more inquisitive. I was actually asking him with respect then, because, you know, the way he was treating me was with respect, so it was only the right thing to do. Anyway, our sons were very friendly, and they used to meet up together. And one Sunday, he wanted to meet up, and my lad had to go into hospital to have grommets fitted in his ears. And he phoned me up and said, should we get the boys together? And I said, no, not tonight, not today, sorry, because we were in the hospital. Oh, what's wrong? And I told him. He went, oh, I'll pray for you. And I said, you what? He said, I'll pray for you. I was like, why would you do that? Why would you pray for me? And when all I've done is given you stick, you know, I've been rude to you, I've been horrible to you for the last 2 years. And he was willing to pray for my family, for my son, you know, to pray to the God that he believed. And that was a real poignant moment for me. It really made me stop and think, actually, why would he do that? Yeah. There's something in that. There's something that's different about him that made him do that, even though I'd been completely horrible to him. And it grabbed me. It stopped me in my tracks. For all the intellect, for all the discussions, for all the battering and the yes and the no's and or what about evidence for this, that stopped me straight away and cut straight to my heart. I was like, wow. And just at that same kind of time, my wife, actually, who's kind of had a faith but didn't have a realized faith, I think she made a decision when she was younger, but she never lived that out, and she kind of wasn't a Christian. She certainly wasn't a practicing Christian. She said to me, she said, do you not think that it's about time you stop being so dogmatic with your atheism? You know, you look all of the one side. You never give yourself a chance to look at any other evidence. Right, and she said, surely that's unscientific. I was like, yeah, right. Oh, actually, she's got a point. So while we're in the hospital with my lad, like, this all happened very fast. While we're in the hospital with my lad, I thought, okay, we're going to stay in overnight because he's had anaesthetic. It was later in the day. I went down to the bookshop to get a book. I thought I'd just go and get a book. And as I'm going into the bookshop, I look in there, and I didn't realise, but at that time, the bookshop was a Christian bookshop. And I'm like, oh, great. You know, oh my goodness me, I just want a book. Why have I got all this rubbish in front of me? Anyway, so I flipped through this one kind of rotating, you know, stand with all the books on, and this green book come around. It was Nicky Gumbel's Questions of Life book. I still have it now. And I thought, oh, right, go on then, that'll do. I need to have a look at it. It's got some stuff in it. I'll read it. Anyway, cut a long story short, my wife stayed in. I gave the book to her to read, and got back in the following day. So I'd get on with the book, kind of thinking she would have read it. She would have, 2 pages, put it down. I was like, oh, right, that's not good then. So didn't think anything of that. Carried on with our normal kind of life. The book came home with us. It sat on the side, and again, a couple of weeks later, I thought, "Oh, go on, then. I'll start reading it. I'll start reading it." And you know what? I was quite amazed by the actual amount of archaeological and factual evidence there is for the Bible and the resurrection and the person of Jesus. I didn't know that was there. I didn't know that it actually is detailed as much as what it was, even to the point of the number of scriptures that they have that were written closer to the time of the event than any other document of antiquity. And like the best one of those, there's only like 9 copies compared to the Bible where there's 32,000. You know, it's kind of like obvious evidence, which I'm like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. And that's just one facet of a lot of different things. Anyway, you go through the book, and I got to the stage where I'd just been for a run. I come back, and there's this thing called a sinner's prayer, and I'm like, what's all that about then? And I read the kind of synopsis for it, and it says, if you want to know who Jesus is, say this prayer. You know, so I was like, okay. Even at this time, I'm kind of like, yeah, right, okay, you know. And I kind of almost challenged God. I said to him, if you're real, I said, I want it. I want it all. I don't want to be messed around with. If you don't show up, if nothing happens now, nothing, you know, if nothing changes in my life or whatever, and I have no idea what to expect, I said, I'm done. That's it. The book goes in the bin, and I would never come back here again. Anyway, I said this prayer, and I had this most amazing experience. And I mean it, the only way I can describe it is like energy and love in one thing. For my whole body was resonating with this kind of, I don't know how to, it's hard to put into words, just this love. It sounds scary, but it wasn't. It was actually really, really peaceful, but secure, but powerful and loving. It was just a warmth that just flowed all the way through, like electricity, but not harmful, all the way through my body. And I'm like, whoa, what the, you know, what happened there? And I was a bit embarrassed, to be honest. I didn't tell anybody what had happened. And I thought, your first thought is, was that me? Did I do that? Did I make that happen? Anyway, a couple of days later, I just found myself just thinking, God's real. God's real. I believe. And I couldn't just shut up then. I could not shut up talking about Jesus. I had this overwhelming urge to read the Bible, and I couldn't get enough of it. It was as if, like, all of a sudden my life had literally hit a wall, stopped, and I'd become this new person. And I had no idea what had happened. I did not know. I didn't know what a Christian was. I didn't know what any of this stuff was. So it was completely alien to me. All I knew that I feel different. I can't shut up about Jesus, who I'm not sure whether I believed in him or not. And kind of, it's a bit strange to be talking about it now. Looking back, if somebody told me like 10 years ago that I'd be a Christian now, I would have toned off. But you know what I mean? Where was all my story? So it's kind of like, I can remember going to my first kind of event, and I can remember saying, which is one of the stories, like one of the things I'll talk about later as well, is somebody asked me, and so how do you feel? And I said, I can't believe what I believe. And just think about that a minute. I can't believe what I believe. So I knew in my heart that something had happened, but my head was going, what's going on? Why has this happened? And from that, my wife saw the absolute change in who I was, in how I acted. I was more loving, I was more caring, I was more thoughtful. And cut a long story short with her story, she then went on an Alpha course, because she's a very deep thinker, my wife. She wanted to do her own thing. And she went off, and she's now a Christian as well. Other people have been impacted through that. But I think one of the most important parts of this for me and the journey is that I had no biblical knowledge, but when I started reading the Bible, and this is one of the other questions that we can come on to later as well, possibly, is that when I started reading about the Holy Spirit, which is obviously the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, as we know, comes in. It says in the Bible, that in Corinthians, a book in the Bible, that he'll give you a new heart. He'll reset your ways, and actually you will, you'll start acting differently. And I was like, that's what's happened to me. Right now, I've had people say to me before, you just live your life to what the Bible says, and to a certain degree that's true, but I didn't change myself to suit the Bible. God had already changed me, and it was confirmed by what I read in the Bible. And it was just like, oh my goodness me. And that was it. That was, so, that was kind of it for me. Yeah, there you go.
I mean, I just love that. That is fantastic. I mean, it's not that we kind of like get our lives and live according to the Bible to be right with God. It's that
No.
God first works in us, and then the Bible becomes the commentary about what's
Yes.
happened to us. We're reading the Bible, and it's like we're discovering, this is what's happened to me. This is what God has done to me through changing my life, changing my heart, and making me into a new creation, through saving me from my sin. I mean, I think that is a perfect articulation of what salvation is about, and what conversion to becoming a new creation in Jesus Christ is all about. Do you know what, Pete? I also loved your analogy there, the way you illustrated what it was like when you came to know Jesus Christ. You said that your life had like kind of stopped and hit a wall, and then a new life started. I mean, that's a fantastic analogy. I'll probably use that actually.
Yeah.
I'm trying to explain what being born again actually means.
Yeah.
Becoming a new creation actually means. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, that's fantastic. I just want to ask you a question, mate.
Yes, mate. Not too hard.
You mentioned that you felt embarrassed when you first had this experience with God, where you were filled with the Holy Spirit. I just wondering if you could explain a little bit more, like why that embarrassment was there.
I think because I was an atheist previous to that, I was like, well, hang on, how can I explain this? How what's just happened? And straight away my thought process wasn't, oh well, God's turned up, God's just blessed me and changed my life forever. It was, oh well, did I do that? What happened there? Did I do something? Why did that happen? It was, if I tell anyone, how stupid am I going to sound? How stupid, it was all about me. It was all about how I'm going to look and stuff like that. So I was like, it took me a while to start telling people, but I couldn't not tell people in the end. It just kept coming out. People could see, they could see the difference.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible, mate. I can certainly relate to some of that as well myself. Certainly. I mean, you told us about that moment when you first discovered that God was real. I just really wonder if you could just describe that a little bit more. What was it? Was it just like one day, just a light bulb switched on, or
no, not at all. It was that experience, but then it was living that out. My this is going to sound funny. My mum, when I told her, was frightened. She said that she could see that I was different, and she knew that I was such an atheist before. I was anti-God of any kind, to then be professing God like 2 days later, and saying this is real and I feel amazing and I can't shut up about it. So for me, that I could see, I knew, it's difficult to explain. It's like, I think an analogy that somebody, you just know. When, I suppose, how do you know your mum, your dad love you? You just know. You instinctively know. They don't have to do necessarily anything for you. They love you because they're your father, they're your mother. And it's the same with God. He's my heavenly Father. Jesus is my, Savior, my Lord. I know that I'm loved. I absolutely know. There's no doubt.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, go on, mate.
Yeah, and I had this discussion with a good friend of mine who's got a master's degree in astrophysics, and I said to him this. I said, you know what, Jesus, God is more real to me than you stood in front of me. That's how real he is. Because I can only see you. My eyes can deceive me. What I feel in here, that's not deceiving. That's me. that's in me. That's part of me, you know?
Yeah. Wow.
And yeah,
I mean, yeah, wow. I mean, that, that's what the Bible talks about, doesn't it? In the book of Hebrews,
absolutely.
it says, that faith is the substance of things not seen, the evidence of things hoped for. So,
Yeah,
it's not just that we live a blind faith. We just believe in some
no,
invisible thing that we can't see. We actually know God. We know Him deep down in our spirits because
mm,
He's given us a spirit of adoption, where
absolutely.
we know God now. We know God as Father, and it's that intimate knowledge, not just in the head but in the heart, that is the thing that transforms. And it's like you say, like our heart is transformed. It's almost like God gives us a heart transplant, and then
Yeah.
we spend a while then playing catch up with our heads,
Yeah.
like trying to piece the jigsaw puzzle
See
together.
exactly what happened. Like I said, that saying, I can't believe what I believed. I knew what it was, but my intellect wasn't allowing myself to go, well, actually, that's what's happened. And it took
Yeah,
a while. It
yeah.
took a while, but I got there.
Wow. Wow. Awesome, mate. Awesome. So, some people say that science and Christianity are incompatible. We often
Mm,
hear that argument made when it comes to faith. Um, and that to become a Christian, uh, one needs to sacrifice their brains to blind faith. What
nah.
would be your word to people like that who kind of think that Christianity and science and reason
Yeah.
and logic, that
Yeah.
Christianity is incompatible with those things?
So first of all, the faith that I have isn't a blind faith. The faith is based on physical evidence. Obviously archaeological evidence, which I said earlier on. There's loads out there. There's lots of writings of script outside of scripture that actually are anti Christianity, which gives it more clout in my understanding.
Yeah,
Back at the time of those horrible Christians everywhere, all that kind of stuff. So for me, it's not a blind faith, first and foremost. Science answers to just two different sets of questions. Science can explain the when and the what, but it can't explain the why and the who. I know Nicky Gumbel uses that on the Alpha course, and I've stolen it, so kudos to Nicky there on that one. But it's right, and he also uses an analogy of a cake, and I'll use that as well. So he says, places a cake on a table. He says science can tell you what that cake is and probably when it was made. It can't tell you why it was made, and it can't tell you who it was made by. And that's a different
right.
set of questions. So I don't think that they are incompatible. I think they complement each other. I think there's historical, the science of archaeology has unearthed things that the Bible said were true thousands of years ago, like the Hittite civilization. The Bible said that
Yeah,
existed, and atheists like what I used to be like would have used that as a negative against the Bible, but actually then it got proven to be correct. There's
yeah,
several of those in the Bible, kings that were in the Bible that archaeology said didn't exist, but actually then they found that they did. And I can't
yeah.
believe that the millions of people that had their lives changed in a massive way. Why would that happen? Why? I don't know. The good thing, or the interesting thing I find, the fathers of science, such as Newton, Kepler, people like that, they were Christians. These are fathers of
Yes.
science that started this whole thing. They were Christians, and it was actually their love of God that drove them to look at the wonder of creation. And from a desire to know more about God came the fuel for their search. So actually, it was their love of God that actually made them search and go on an evidence-based trip to answer that. So I think they complement. I don't think they answer the same set of questions.
Yeah, no, and I'd fully agree with that. I mean, when we look at science and even university, I mean, university was originally founded within the Christian, the
Yeah,
Christian West.
yeah,
The all of the educations, the different spheres of knowledge were held together in a universal sense in God.
yeah,
So they do all come from the Christian worldview. The study of science, as he said, comes from the Christian worldview.
yeah,
And just on that note as well, if we look at history, studying history is a form of science. It's a form of studying what's happened here on Earth. And you're completely right there. I fully agree that there's no such thing as logic or maths without God, who is the one who creates the earth with order, with a certain order to it. So no,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
thanks.
I would use the mathematical thing as well, because math doesn't create anything. It gives you a framework of what is. It
Yeah,
doesn't actually create. So, like, if I did a funny dance, somebody could look at that dance and say, right, I can write an algorithm to say what he's going to do and everything. If I didn't do the dance, he wouldn't be able to write anything.
yeah, wow,
You
wow,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah. No, I know. It's definitely. It's like without God, we're kind of reasoning around the
Mm,
subjects, but we're not actually going to the source. And I think you're totally right.
no,
Science
yeah,
can produce the answers for when and what happened, but it's purpose.
yeah,
Purpose is the thing that we can
absolutely.
only discover in God, I believe.
I
So,
agree.
so no, thanks for that, mate. That's brilliant. And just to let people know as well that those historians that I think people are referring to, there's Josephus, there's Tacitus.
Yeah,
Both of these are historians who weren't Christian.
Pliny the Younger. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they weren't Christians, and
No,
yet they documented things about Jesus Christ and things that happened in Israel, which validate the Bible. I
yeah,
think I love that. How people who weren't Christians and didn't believe in Jesus Christ as God, they actually validated the Christian faith. That's some good stuff. That is, praise God.
amen.
Okay, so another question here, Pete, for you. Some people say that they don't want to know Jesus Christ. They're not really interested about it. What would your word be to those people?
You're missing out.
Yeah, cool.
uh, Honestly, for me personally, obviously I can only speak from personal experience. It's been the best thing that I've ever done in my life, to say yes to Jesus. The fellowship, the friendship, the love, the certainty, the I'll be honest, I was scared of dying before. Now I don't fear death in any way, shape, or form anymore. I know where I'm going. It's an absolute definite. I just know. Again,
Yeah,
it's that same certainty that I felt. I have that comfort. I don't worry about stuff like that anymore. Do I worry about other things? Of course I do. I'm not perfect. Um, what was the question again? Sorry.
yeah. For those
Oh,
people who don't
perfect.
want,
Yeah, yeah. So the other one thing I would say to that is I wasn't, and I'm still not perfect. Romans 3:23, which is a book in the Bible, says, "For all are sinners, made mistakes, took wrong decisions, have fallen short of the glory of God." None of us really are good enough. But that's why we need Jesus, and that's why, today, on a day like today, it's Good Friday for a reason.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's good news. Because Jesus, let me show you something. I wonder if it's going to work on the camera. So just imagine, this is what happens when Jesus goes to the cross for us who are sinners. And what happened at the beginning of creation, that the Christians believe that we made bad mistakes, and actually they became a barrier between us and God. And Jesus going to the cross is the one that repairs that relationship. So if you imagine this is your life here, and this, my phone, is all the bad things that we've done. Let's be honest, we all do them. We all make mistakes. We all do things that are and that could be something like telling a simple lie, stealing something, looking at a woman or a man with lust. All these kind of things. Jesus said in some of the Gospels that if you look at a woman with lust, you committed adultery in your heart. So he's raised the bar quite a bit. So if you see here, this is you. This is the things that you do wrong. Sorry, you can see that.
yeah,
God's up here. There's a barrier between us. What Jesus did today is come and say, I'll take that barrier away from you. I'll take all your sin. I'll take it to the cross. And then over the next couple of days, he would die, and then he will be raised back up to heaven again on Sunday. And now look, there's no barrier between you and God. And he's restored that relationship so that you can have a relationship with God free from all of this that you carry around with you, that we don't carry around as Christians. We still, don't get me wrong, we're still not perfect. We still make mistakes. We still do silly things, but we know that that relationship will never change, and
yeah,
we're free to access God. And through that relationship, that gives us joy, peace, the fruits of the Spirit, which are another thing in the Bible, which is just, how would you explain that, Stephen? The fruits of the Spirit. How could you it's like
Fruits of the Spirit, yeah, the fruits of the
yeah,
Spirit are sort of, it's almost like people see the Christian faith or religion
yeah,
as you've got to do good works, you've got to work
yeah.
really hard to get to heaven. When actually the Christian faith, the gospel message is you believe in Jesus Christ, He'll
Mm,
work in you, and you'll
yeah.
just start to accidentally become a better person as those,
Yeah.
that's how it's like. I mean, like the fruit,
Mm,
like, a tree doesn't try to bear fruit,
no,
it bears
no.
fruit.
It's natural. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'd say.
But also another analogy, and that's because it's planted in the right stuff. And
Yeah,
that's the point, isn't it? That we're
certainly.
planted that in God, and that relationship is now open. So we now have access,
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't
yeah,
matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter who you've hurt. It doesn't matter how hurt you are. His grace is enough.
yeah.
He's got it covered. All you have to do is say yes to him and ask for his forgiveness, and he will come and be for you like he was for me.
Brilliant.
And that's a guarantee.
That's a guarantee, guys, and that is
Mm.
what Good Friday is all about. That's what we celebrate today, what Jesus did for
Amen.
us on the cross as dying in our place as our substitute. Okay,
Mm.
we've got a couple of questions in here from people. Someone's asked anonymously, what happened to your wife?
She went on an Alpha course
Yeah,
and became a Christian. Same. So now
okay,
we're a Christian family, and we have friends as well who have seen the change in both of our lives and have now come to faith as well.
wow.
So it's kind of like a knock-on effect. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
dominoes. Okay, well, that flows into the next question actually as well.
Mm.
Someone's written in and they've said, do you still have many atheist friends now? What do they think to your new life? So I don't maybe just explain a little bit more about that for our viewers because they'd like to hear a little bit
Yeah,
about
yeah. So yeah, I do have some atheist friends, not as many as I used to, probably
that.
because
Well, that can't be good. Is that good? Is that
yeah,
good?
yeah,
You're
yeah,
being saved, Pete.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because again, I used to be a drinker. I used to go to the pub with rugby. I would hang out. That my mates were kind of around that kind of scene, and it's not that I didn't want to do it. I just felt that it wasn't right to do it. I can remember being in town in Cheltenham on a bank holiday weekend where normally I'd go out and we go out with friends, brothers and sisters and stuff. And I just remember sat there thinking, I don't feel I fit here anymore. This isn't right for me.
Yeah.
And it was again, it wasn't a conviction, but it was something in my heart. It's like, this isn't the best I've got for you. In my mind, I could feel this isn't the best I've got for you.
Wow.
You're better than this. I can give you what you need. You'll not find satisfaction in a pint of beer.
Yeah.
You know. So from that kind of perspective, I've probably got less friends because I don't hang out as much. But as somebody that wants to share the love of God, I try my best to connect with people. Like I mentioned earlier on, I've got a good friend who's got a master's degree in astrophysics, and we're constantly WhatsApping questions. If I showed you the stream, it would probably be year to the moon and back, you know what I mean, of questions and biblical things. And we debate all the time. And I love that. I love doing that. But yeah, not as many as I would like to have. But that's probably down to me and obviously the circumstance we're in at the minute anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Sure.
think
Sure.
I've naturally kind of gone away from that, but that's wrong. If I can be as bold as to say that, Jesus said, we need to go and shine our light in dark place. Not saying that atheists are dark. That's not my point. It's we don't. If we just keep our Christian self to Christian people, then we're not sharing the love of God with those that don't know Him. So
Yeah.
I
No.
would encourage
Yeah.
all of us. I would encourage all of us to make friends with as many people as we can outside of the church. You know,
Yes.
so that
Yeah.
we can
And get
support,
the
love, and
gospel
care
out
for.
there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Get the gospel out there, and that more people can receive salvation,
yeah.
and that more lives can be made better, can be made whole, and can be blessed by this glorious gospel message of Jesus Christ and His kingdom.
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, I want to go on to another question here, and I'm tying this in with one of our viewers has also asked this question. Um, how would you engage with someone who is skeptical about the Christian faith?
Mm.
So, someone who is a little bit like maybe, how would you engage with that sort of person? And maybe, you can answer this question: how would you engage with someone who's skeptical about the Christian faith, and how
First,
would with just people in general, anyway, as
yeah.
you're doing evangelism?
First and foremost, everything is relational. You have to build a relationship with somebody. There's no point in going to talk to somebody and say, you need Jesus, blah, 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 unless you've directly heard from God, and that's but most of the time you have to become friends. You have to do journey with people. You have to come alongside people. You have to help them and be there and pick your opportunity. Sometimes God speaks to me about, yes, go and speak to this person, go and do that, go and, yes, it's the right time. You learn from your own kind of discernment, but don't not do it. So the only way I've got to that stage is because I've gone through the pain, should we say, for lack of a better phrase, of getting it wrong. But it didn't stop me doing it. It didn't stop me doing it. So how would I engage? Well, it's real. I would say, like myself, because obviously I was a skeptic and I was somebody that that kind of looked to Christianity through my atheist kind of Christianity is rubbish tinted glasses. So it's trying to change perceptions. It's trying to get people to think on a different level, a different way. So intellect is one way, but again, as you heard from my testimony, that necessarily wasn't the way that worked for me. It was actually, I was engaging with that, but it was the love. It was the guy witnessing undeserved love, because I was horrible to him. I didn't deserve that love. And that's what Jesus does for us. We don't deserve it, but it's a gift. It's a gift. So you receive a gift. So I would say we have to become who we're called to be, the best version of what God made us to be, to engage with people outside the church, and just point them to the evidence. End of the day, evidence is there. If you're willing to look, again, without those tinted glasses, like I did, and give it a chance, you'll find that actually it is there. It is there. And the one thing for me is one of the big ones for me, which really kind of grabbed me and actually made me think again of why this is all real, is the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire spent years and years and years trying to tear down Christianity, crucified people left, right, and center to shut it down, and they could not shut it down. The greatest force that this planet has seen outside of God, kind of military force at the time, and then what happened? They completely turned table and become its biggest advocate to spread it through the world. Only God can do that. Only God can do that. So how would I engage with a skeptic? Putting those truths into people's lives, into their minds, getting them to think a different way of, this is rubbish, and no, there is actually evidence in there. Think about this. Just, little and often, I think with skeptics, you couldn't just go, blah,
Yeah, no,
is that good enough?
Yeah, no, I think that's good, Pete. I think we need to kind of like drip feed people, not go over the top, but just it's that balance in it. Like, first of all, we need to genuinely love people. I mean,
absolutely.
When I became a Christian, a follower of Jesus, like 6-7 years ago, it was the church that I was going to. I mean, I was a drug addict and all this lot, and I went to this church and I started helping them in this shop. They gave me something to do. Like, I never had anything to do, and they used to let me work in this bookshop. On my own. They trusted me. They trusted me, a drug addict, to work in their shop, and no one had ever trusted me before. And that really was powerful, because I really felt genuine, authentic love from them, and that someone would trust me.
Give you a chance.
And it was that was part of it that really made me see the authentic love of Jesus Christ.
Brilliant.
In their lives, reaching out to me. But I also think, you made a valid point there about something I love about your story, Pete, is the fact that, you weren't interested in Christianity, you didn't look at it, and then your wife points out your own bias.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we need to be doing today. We need to be, if we want to love people genuinely, we need to show them all the facts. We need to show them the truth.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And, we need to really just make sure that people have looked at Christianity as fairly as what they maybe looked at atheism or evolution. Give it
Absolutely.
all a fair hearing. I think,
And I would say vice versa as well, Stephen. We need to be aware of what science is going on. We need to educate ourselves with other faiths, with science as well. So we can debate and we can talk intellectually with people. But also, as Christians, we also need to know the answers to the questions that we're going to get asked.
yeah,
So we need to prepare and equip ourselves, and do the groundwork so that actually when we do go out, we're not fighting, against the gun with a sword, even though that biblical sword is different. We're not getting to that tonight.
yeah. No, I think that's definitely right as well, Pete. As well, I mean, we need to know other faiths, other worldviews,
Absolutely.
because once we know other faiths and other worldviews, we can provide critiques of those worldviews. Like for example, evolution. Well, we're made in the image of God, humanity. There's like I'm capable of writing. I'm capable of producing art and music
Yes.
and
Yeah.
appreciating music.
Yeah.
Animals don't do things like that. So there's ways there that we can show the inconsistency of some of these worldviews. But I think it's fantastic, some of the stuff you said there. Also, to know history. History is a very important thing that we don't know history very well anymore in this day and age. But if we can really learn history, good history, that accurate history, that is just, it's gold. It's gold.
Yes,
it is in how you
I
live
agree.
your life, and also in providing defences for the faith. Okay, well, someone's asked a question here, Richard. I think it might be Richard Kearns. I'm going to whack this there.
Hi, Richard.
But I can't see the people below, by the way. We have someone who's working on that stuff for us. But what's been your biggest trial since becoming a Christian?
Oh,
Your biggest
interesting
sort
question.
of test, your biggest, that time that you felt most challenging since you've become a Christian?
I'd probably have to say telling my family, because
Yeah.
because I didn't come from a Christian family. There's no Christians in my family at all yet. I will say yet. That was hard because, like I said, my mum completely freaked out, thought I'd been part of some cult, and said that I'd been brainwashed. My brother said, I don't know you anymore. And I was almost well, he's the weirdo, you know what I mean? Get him out, so type of thing. But outside of that, kind of workplace, really. Working I was a company manager. And so wanting to be able to share my faith in an environment that doesn't kind of allow for that properly, I suppose, in one way, but at the same time, completely being undermined by what people are saying around me because they knew I was a Christian.
Yeah.
And again, I was the only one in an open plan office of about 10. So, that was really challenging, a lot of prayer. But at the same time, people I know, because I used to do this as an atheist, people are watching you. People are always watching you. And don't, again, if there are Christians watching this, if you've got people that are giving you an aggressive reaction to you talking to them, that's good, because you're getting an emotional reaction.
Yeah.
If they don't bother and they just go, yeah, whatever, then you're probably not getting anywhere. If you're getting an emotional reaction, take positives from that, because that's actually what happened with me. I would get really aggressive because I was fighting what was going on. So yeah, sharing my faith, I think, is now, it's not a problem. I can do it. I'm happy doing it. I just get on with it. It's part of who I am. Back then, even though I knew I should do it, it was difficult to do it because I was on my own, but I had God. But I wasn't on my own, but you know what I'm saying. So
okay, cool. We've got two more questions. We're going to continue. We've got two more from our viewers. With Emma as commented underneath, and she's asked, what advice would you give to someone on the fence? So if you've got a friend who's kind of on the fence in regards to faith, what advice or what one thing would you say to that person?
It depends, without knowing the person, without knowing who they are, where they're coming from, what their view is. Again, this is why relationship is so important. People will give so much away. I would find out why they're on the fence. What is it that's stopping them? One of the again, I keep referring to Alpha because I do enjoy it. One of the questions on the beginning of Alpha is, if God was real and you could get an answer to any question, what would that question be?
Yeah.
You know, I would ask them that question, because that really tells them where they're at. And
Yeah.
actually, if they give you that answer, then a lot of the time when you're on alpha, they say, oh, well, I lost my husband to COVID, or I prayed and nothing happened. So there's an issue with why God wouldn't heal, or why didn't God protect somebody, or so you know what the issue is. So it's trying to find out what that reason is why they don't want to commit. Again, just ask that question. It's a great question to ask. You know, if God was real and he could answer any question for you, what would you ask him?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's great, isn't it? Great question to ask.
And it just gives you it just gives you a look into people's psyche to understand where they're coming from, and then you can move on from there.
Okay.
That looks like a long question, Stephen. I don't want that one.
Yeah. They're coming in. They're coming in. They are. Okay. So someone here has asked, when you meet someone who isn't a Christian, how do you stop interacting with them beyond a potential convert? So I don't know.
Okay.
I'm kind of
Yeah.
guessing that is. Do you understand that question?
Yeah, I think so. You're looking for a way in. How do you start a conversation, basically, about Jesus and stuff like that? Is that kind of what I'm thinking?
How do you stop interacting with them beyond a potential?
Stop interacting.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I don't know. I think it's kind of like,
Oh, right, as in timing.
well, they're friends with this person, and then it's like not sort of happening. I think I don't know. I think that's what the
Pray. Everything starts with prayer. Everything ends with prayer. You've got to keep praying and praying and praying. Difficult. I know what you're saying. I understand you can't overdo it. I've been guilty of that in my early days. I was so overzealous that actually I probably ended up turning people further away from Jesus than actually closer, because I was too passionate to kind of speak to God about it. Let him guide you. Ask for advice. But just keep praying for them. Keep praying. You know, prayer is a powerful tool with evangelism. If you don't pray, it don't work. It's as simple as that.
yeah, no, definitely.
But yeah, discernment. Just keep loving them.
Yeah, and it's as
Keep
simple as
loving.
that, Pete. Really,
Yeah,
it's as
just keep
simple as
loving
that.
them.
Okay,
Just
Pete,
be that.
we've
Go
got
on,
another
sorry.
question.
All right, okay.
When you meet someone who isn't a Christian, how do you? Oh, sorry, that's the same one. As someone who is both interested in science and a Christian,
Yeah.
how do you reconcile the two when it comes to evolution?
Oh, interesting question.
That's it. I'll let you have that one, Pete.
So again, there are Christians that believe in evolution. There are Christians that believe that evolution is not real. It's a difficult question. The bottom line, let's cut to the chase. The bottom line is we don't know. Science doesn't know. You know, we're both looking at historical evidence. What I believe is personal to me. Do I believe in a 7-day creation, a 6-day creation, and a 7-day? Yes, I do. Because God, for me, is, and I know the language in the New Testament is poetic in kind of nature. I'm not a biblical scholar or anything like that, so this is only my own interpretation. Where'd you go with that? I can't for the life of me believe that evolution over a million. It's going to a worldview. So let's put it this way. So if you took a dictionary and opened up a dictionary, right? Say it was on the letter C, and there's loads of things on letter C. Oh, I think my battery's about to go flat. I didn't turn on the power. Oh no! If you open up the Bible to the thing to see, and all of the letters come off the screen, and you threw them up in the air, and the pages are white, and they landed back on the page. What basically evolution is saying, over 65 million years, all of those letters would line up on there perfectly as they were before. I'm sorry, but I cannot believe that. There is no chance in anywhere that is possible. You can't have, you know, how can matter form on its own without being known what to form into? Where does gravity come from? Nobody actually knows. It's a natural force.
Yeah.
But for science, it holds everything. It's from the Big Bang. Without gravity, you haven't got it. Without gravity, planets cannot form. You know, it started everything, it holds everything together, and sounds familiar, doesn't it? You know,
Yeah,
you know
Jesus
what I mean?
Christ holds all things together. Yeah, amen.
Absolutely. Just bear with me 2 seconds. I just need to turn the plug on, or else I'm
Yeah,
going to
no worries. I
disappear.
mean,
Sorry.
I'll have a stab at that question.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think the way I'd reconcile it as well is, that ultimately, the evolution explanation isn't the only explanation for the origin of the Earth. I mean, me too. I believe in a 6-day creation, a young Earth, and these rock layers that they often refer to as, wow, these rock layers they're here for millions of years. This is millions of years of rock layers. Well, there's actually a good case that can be made, and I believe this case to be more consistent, that actually those rock layers are there from the time of the Great Flood
yeah,
in the days of Noah. And they've actually found a lot of these what do you call them, fossils, these fossils. They've found them in particular parts of the world where there were like valleys. And so when the flood came along and it washed the animals away, all the animals got stuck in this valley underwater, and then loads of earth got chucked over them, over the top of them, and that's what forms rock layers. And this has been proven basically by one particular fossil that they found that was a fish that was eating another fish in the process of eating another fish, and it fossilized like that. Now, if it fossilized over millions of years, well, it doesn't take millions of years for a fish to eat another fish, does it? So it must have happened more
instantly.
quickly than
Yeah,
what we're being told. So I think my response would just be question everything.
yeah,
Don't just believe what scientific consensus is saying, what people are saying, because people could be wrong. And I think the question is of authority. What are you going to put your authority in? Are you going to
mm,
put your authority in the Bible, in God's word, or are you going to put your authority in some scientists? And they're both matters of faith. It depends
I
which
agree with that.
account you're
Yeah,
going to believe at the end of the day, because none of us, unfortunately, were there to see the world be created.
mm,
So, but I think there's a great case that can be made for a young Earth and for the Bible's account.
yeah, yeah. And I would back up what you said about the lines of which science believes as sediment layers. Actually,
Yeah,
there
that's
are
it. Yeah,
there are actually tree trunks that go that way along it. So if that was to happen over a gradual period, why would these trunks be going like in the science thing about 10 million years? Well, it doesn't last that long, does it? It would wear away at the top. So how would that be possible? So it
yeah.
traverses about, you know, yeah,
I'll tell you what, for
great.
the person who asked that question, there's a great documentary on YouTube about that. I'll add it into the comments after the show, a link to that, and you can go and watch that. It's brilliant. It's in 4K. It's about an hour and a half long, and it's absolutely
Mm,
fantastic. It's really informative. Okay, we've got one more question, Pete, from basically it was that question again. I think they've clarified it for us. Um,
okay.
how do you not just relate to people as potential converts, but how do you treat them normally as real people? That was the question.
As real people.
Yeah. I think
We're
it's
all,
like,
yeah. I know, I'm being
yeah,
silly.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just want,
yeah,
excuse me, that's my sense of humor. Sorry. Um, yeah, well, people are people. Again, people just want to be cared for. They want to be loved. They want to feel part of something. It's literally, honestly, we overcomplicate this. It's all about relationship. Jesus did what he did to repair a relationship. Everything is done through relationship. Make friends with as many people as you can, which I know sometimes is difficult for us. We're not, the more society goes on, we're more insular, we're more keep ourselves to ourselves. But we've got to stop doing that as
yeah,
Christians. We've got to become more open. We've got to become more the light of the party, but in a positive way, not in a look at me, as in, have we should be so full of the love of God, so full of the presence of God that actually people are changed when we walk in a room. They see the difference in us,
yeah,
because of who we carry.
yeah.
So I'm not sure that answers the question really, but it's people are people. They're everyone's the same, whether you're talking to a Christian or whether you're talking to someone that doesn't know God. I know it's easier talking to a Christian because they get you, they understand you're on the same wavelength, and actually you have the same worldview and points like what you believe in. But again, it's just about love.
Yeah,
It really,
it's quite
really
fun,
is.
isn't it?
It's just about caring for people and actually being the nicest you can,
Yeah,
and actually just going that extra mile.
yeah,
So simple things. If you've got a neighbor or if it's a neighbor, just make them a cake every week.
yeah,
Take it around. They'll soon start asking you, why are you doing this?
yeah.
Then you can share why. Simple things. Find something that makes them tick, or what you can do to help them, support them, love them, care for them, whatever, and
I think
actually use that. Go on.
I think you're right, Pete, as well. And I think my experiences. I mean, I'm quite an introverted person. And it's a British problem as well, isn't it? If we're honest,
Yeah, it is.
we
It
like to
is.
keep ourselves to ourselves. But
Yeah.
I find though that the more I kind of push myself to get to know someone, I actually start to love that person more. The more I find out
Yeah.
about them, and it's coming out of that sort of like egg that I'm in, where I like to just be on my own with my own thoughts. Once I get out of that and I get to know someone, I actually find I love this person, and at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you know, it's the love of God that compels
Absolutely.
us.
Absolutely.
Persuade,
And what
we want to
and the
persuade all people.
yes, and the key thing is here, if you're a Christian and you struggle with that, just remember somebody did it for you.
Come
Somebody
on,
told you about, and you would not be where you are if somebody hadn't told you. So that for me is a driver. It's something that drives me. If that chap hadn't have showed me Jesus, if he hadn't have stood there and gone through all that for me, I wouldn't have known Jesus. My family wouldn't be saved. My children wouldn't be going to heaven. For me, that's worth so much,
yeah,
and it's worth the rejection. It's worth they're a weirdo. They're strange. I'll take that all day long for the one
yeah,
that says yes, I'm interested.
yeah.
It's
No,
worth it.
definitely.
Yeah,
100%, mate. I mean, me and you are quite similar, Pete. We're both evangelists. I mean,
yeah,
I like talking to non-Christians more than I do Christians. I feel alive when I'm talking to people who don't know Jesus.
yeah,
And I
totally.
mean, my past of being a drug addict, I've been rejected all my life. So it doesn't bother me
Yeah,
if I get rejected. I just think, in fact, when people reject me for my faith, that's kind of evidence again that this message
mm,
is the truth. But
amen.
okay, yeah, I'm going to tie. I've got a question from Emma here and one last question from myself. I'm going to tie them both together for time. Um, what is your favourite Bible verse, and what are you doing with your life now in the future?
My favorite Bible verse is Hebrew 12. So I'm surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. I cast off all the things, the snare, the easiest snares, and fix my eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of my faith, who sat down at the right hand of the Father, endured the cross for shame. And that's key for an evangelist, that he endured the cross for the joy that was set before him. And that's what we should
Yeah,
carry. We'll go through
yeah,
the pain, we'll go through the suffering, we'll go through the rejection for the joy that is set before us, as Jesus did. What am I doing with my life now? Wow. Apart from being extremely busy with everything else that's going on, I've possibly going to be going to Regent's Theological College to study MIT.
fantastic.
It's not confirmed yet. I've not got any biblical theological training or anything at all. So I thought it was about time I did, and I'm being kind of encouraged by my pastor at a local church here. So yeah, who knows? Wherever God takes me, I'm going.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. Well, yeah, Pete is actually part of the Reach evangelism team for Elam Pentecostal churches. You can actually invite Pete to come and speak at one of your events. You can find that on the Elam Reach website. Reach department is it's on the Elam website. You can find that. Pete, it's been fantastic to have you on the show today. I'm really thankful. I mean, just to let you know as well, mate, the book of Hebrews is my favourite book as well.
Oh, it's
There's
brilliant.
something about the
Love
book of
it.
Hebrews, I just feel
Yeah,
inspired every time.
absolutely.
I don't think, though, I can say I've got a favourite Bible verse. I find it really hard to narrow things down. But yeah, thank you, Pete. Thanks.
Like them all.
I mean, I think that's amazing, guys, don't you? All our viewers tonight. I mean, the Christian faith is for all people. It's for intellectuals. It's for thinkers, because the Christian faith is reasonable. I mean, I'd like the idea that often I think in Christianity today, there's this idea, like we've bought into it a bit, where, Christianity and our brains don't make sense, where we're just following this mystery of our hearts and knowledge is kind of not relevant. But that couldn't be further from the truth, could it? I mean,
No.
I love the idea that we don't have to sacrifice our brains on the altar of religion, because God created our brains. God created logic and everything else. Faith makes sense. And so if you're wanting to know a bit more about the Christian faith, I think me and Pete would both be together on this. Just take a deeper look. We're not asking you, give your life to Jesus right here and right now, if that's not what you're ready to do. If you are ready to do that by all means, come to Christ and live. But what we would say is, if you're still skeptical and you're still thinking about things, why not take a closer look at Christianity and give it a fair hearing? Why don't you treat it the same as maybe you might have looked at atheism, or you might have looked at some other philosophy? Why don't we need to make sure, that's all I'm saying, that we
try an alpha course.
Try alpha, yeah. Elam are doing an alpha course in Easter as well on the 14th of April, which Pete has been a big part of heading up. That would be a fantastic opportunity to take a deeper look, just look a little bit closer at Christianity and Jesus Christ's claims. Who knows? You might just find what you've always been looking for. You might find the truth, and you might find purpose for your life. Okay, well, that kind of does it for us tonight, guys. If you have any further questions for Pete or myself, then feel free to contact us at Oxford Elam on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Miss next month's exciting episode, when we will be having former gang member and drug dealer Ash Nixon. He'll be coming and sharing his incredible story of transformation and change. That is not one to miss. Well, thanks a lot, guys. Happy Good Friday, and enjoy the rest of your Easter weekend.
Bye, everyone. Bless you.